Welcome to the Not All Love and Life podcast with your host, Romy Moreno.
Welcome to the podcast, Summer Montabone. She is a performance coach, one of the many hats that she wears. Welcome.
Thank you.
So right before we got on, we started talking about like all the different things that you've done, that you do. And honestly, that's one of the reasons why I wanted to have you on here, because you've evolved so much. And I think it's so inspiring to share your story. So why don't you let the listeners know a little bit about yourself?
Sure. Well, thank you so much. I'm glad to be here. And yes, I'm a multifaceted woman, like many women. So a wife, a mom, trauma survivor, sister, daughter, all those hats. And then I have evolved as a health teacher, a personal trainer, a pro athlete, a business owner. And a lot of my clients today call me multiple different things because mindset, mental and physical performance, as well as their leadership and business development and performance is kind of where I am today. So helping women as a coach and a mentor who want to get unstuck, and it could be, personally or professionally. So that's why we have a hard time summing it up in one word.
And I could totally get it, because with all of the different things that I've done and how much I've evolved, because I also started as a personal trainer and a life coach, and I've evolved so much. I did yoga. I was a yoga instructor. I say was, but I still am, because I still teach yoga at my retreats and at workshops. But it's like, how do I introduce myself?
Right. Because we have all these different experiences that have been building blocks, right, to help us. And it sounds like we have the commonality that we've seen through the fitness and wellness industry, that the mental aspect, that mental well-being is so important to achieve, right? The physical well-being, and then even the business and career success.
Yeah, I feel like that is so important, because you could have a goal to lose X amount of weight or to build X amount of muscle, and you could get there, but unless you get your mindset right, it won't be consistent and you won't be able to transition that into a lifestyle, because the mindset is not there.
Absolutely. I have a corny quote. You've got to get your mind right to get your body tight or achieve any other goal in life. Yeah. I mean, that really is the root. And I feel like, all the way back from, I've trained pro athletes as well as myself becoming pro athletes and training people to the highest level. And what I found as a business owner too, partly because of my postpartum experience, that I was like, man, it doesn't matter if we have the best training, the best eating habits, right? Or we're doing all the things, checking the box in our career. If we don't believe and have that internal belief system, like none of that's going to come together and work for us. We're not going to be able to move forward as strong and perform as well as we'd like if our mind isn't in the right place.
Right, absolutely. There's so much that goes into getting your body tight, right? And your body right. And it does start within, not only the mindset, but also healing our traumas. And I know you mentioned that you're a trauma survivor. So I've seen myself, even because when I was a personal trainer, I was already a life coach. So I was helping people already heal. I just wasn't doing the spiritual work as of yet, but healing them, helping them heal with certain traumas and certain situations and certain negative thought patterns and all of that. And it wasn't until they did that that they started to lose the weight, releasing that, because our bodies hold on to so much, especially if you're in survivor mode all the time and fight or flight, your body will hold on to anything, and sometimes that's just weight, and the weight that you're holding on to might not even be yours anymore.
Absolutely. And I always say, especially as women, and especially women that are having many roles, we're carrying the weight of the world on our shoulders, and it's also showing up on our waist. And then, as you said too, like the body knows the score. So, physical pain, joint pain, all those things that I have found working with clients, it's because the body knows the score. Like you just said, it's holding on to the emotional pain. And so, yeah, we need to heal. We need to recover. We need to let that go in order to change our bodies. And so one thing I found, and one reason why, so I don't know if I even mentioned, I've had a personal training business for 20 years, and I actually sold the physical location. I had a 6,000 square foot physical location, team of employees. And, part of my postpartum depression journey afterwards is I realized, like, I want to do deeper work, because a lot of these women that are coming to me think they're going to fix their problems through diet and exercise. And that's actually not what they need, right? We need to go deeper into the root. So that personal development, that healing, that recovery. And again, it's multifactorial, because I had a lot of clients that I've now worked with that have done counseling, for example, and I truly believe in counseling, but it was also through the coaching that it helped them to actually move forward, right, and start achieving what they wanted. So it's, again, multifactorial. We need a couple different pieces to help our puzzle of moving forward.
Yeah, I agree 100% because I have many clients that see therapists, but what I do is completely different. As coaches, we do different work than therapists.
Mhm.
Therapy is a completely different process. I'm 100% for it, but you need both depending on what goal you are looking to achieve. It's not
Absolutely.
one or the other, because someone might think, oh, I'm not going to work with you because I'm going to go to therapy instead. And that's cool. Like, that's 100% okay, because I feel we all need therapy to a certain extent. If you're in therapy for 10 years and you're still going every week, I think that that's a little bit of a red flag when it comes to how the therapist is actually helping you. But definitely somebody to check in with, because we all need that. But the work that we do as coaches, whether it's the work that you do as a mindset coach and a fitness coach, or whatever, you've evolved, is completely different than what therapy will do for you.
Absolutely. And I think it's important, whether you're looking for a coach, therapist. And one reason why I became so um, passionate about wanting to help other women business owners in particular is I had so many male coaches that were super knowledgeable, but they could not relate to what I was going through behind the scenes as a woman, as a mom, a mom without a mom, for one, no outside support at home, all these things that I was dealing with. So I recognize there's such a big gap. And that's why I was like, I'm ready to really, use my talents to help these women. And as we all know, in some of our industries, there's people out there that just really don't have the experience either. And so I'm pretty upfront about that. Like, hey, when you're hiring a coach, do they have experience? Do they have success stories? Because even when I would hire personal trainers, I'd be like, "Oh, great, you have a piece of paper, but let me see what you can do," because that's I think an issue right now is finding the right support. So anyway, I'm really passionate about bringing women together to share our stories, right? Know that we're not alone, and then be able to help us move forward and realize that just what is on social media or gurus telling you doesn't fit for every person. I think there's a lot of shaming out there sometimes in social media for women in particular about, oh, you should be able to do this, and all you need is discipline, and all this. And it's like, that's not really the case for a lot of us.
Some people have more privileges than others. Some people, because I can tell you the person that I am today and what I'm capable and have the capacity to do as a single mom of two kids, one being special needs, compared to when I was married and I had just one son, or right, even a newborn or a baby is completely different than what my life looks like now. So before I was able to get so much more done because I had support versus now. So every single person is different. And I do want to touch base on what you said earlier about just a piece of paper. I've said this on previous episodes, but I just want to let you know, the listeners, that you are the one doing the hiring. You are the one either hiring a coach, a personal trainer, even a therapist. You're the one that should be interviewing them as well. So when you sit with them, you ask questions. Some people feel like they can't do that. They just let the other person just take over and do all the talking and almost feel like they're over them, or something. And I just had a healing session with one of my clients, and he told me that he met with a therapist and he doesn't feel like it was the right fit, but it was nice to talk to someone. And for me, I told him, I'm like, then why are you going to keep going? If your intuition, if your gut tells you this is not the right fit, because there's a difference between feeling like the person and you don't align versus I don't really like what they're telling me, but I feel like this is what I need. There's a difference between the two. Now, if you just don't feel aligned with the person, or maybe the person, there's a lot of therapists out there that have just gotten the degree. They haven't done the work themselves. And I personally know therapists have not done the work themselves. So I'm not just speaking out of my ass, but you are the one hiring these professionals. You are the one making that investment, not only with your money, but your time and your energy. Make sure that you're spending it wisely with the right people. So I just wanted to touch base on that because I feel that's so important because I've hired the wrong coaches and it has caused me so much money, time, energy, and resulted in trauma. And it's just not even. It's the worst.
Right, absolutely. So we need to know that it's okay for us to say, hey, this isn't a fit. And I love what you said about interviewing them. So, yes, whether you're hiring a coach and a counselor, and yes, I believe that most of us need both of those at certain periods of time. Me, I look at, if I'm looking at a coach, have they ever hired a coach themselves? And I remember, again, with a fitness studio, that was one of the things that sometimes I would ask, okay, you want to be a personal trainer. Have you ever hired a personal trainer in your life? Like that says something because quite honestly, some of my clients who evolved into being able to turn into coaches became the best coaches because they knew what it was like to be a client first.
They've gone through the process.
Right. Yeah. Right. And so if we're not willing to invest in ourselves as coaches and, counselors, well, then why should someone else invest in us? But the same going for counselors. I've actually had many clients who are counselors, right? Coming for coaching. Like you said, a lot of times they're a work in progress too, and working through their own things as well. So yeah, same with doctors. I tell people just because they're the best, if you don't click with them, ask for referrals, right? Ask around, get a second opinion. And I love what you said about your intuition and gut. Some of us like don't listen to that enough. And I know with you, that's one of your big strengths. And that is for me too. And so same thing, if you're going to a doctor, a coach, counselor, whoever it is, if you're like, man, this isn't fitting. And the other thing I want to share is there's been times I've been through counseling and even coaching that I was like, you know what? They can't take me any further than when they've taken me right now. So it is time for me to find who I need for my next level of involvement as well. Because sometimes I think some of us are too loyal. I know that's been something, that you feel bad, right? And you have to decide this is what I need for level 1, level 2, level 3, and kind of move forward that way in our life too.
And that's what makes you an amazing coach because you are continuously doing the work. There's always going to be people that know more than we do. And
Mm-hmm.
I tell my clients all the time, one thing that I really try to let them know and train them on is not to become codependent on me,
Mm-hmm.
by having to ask me everything or not making a decision until they talk to me. No, because I'm not planning to be around for you for a very long time. This is a process. I'm trying to teach you the tools and the strategies that you need in order for you to be able to do this on your own. And if you feel like this is not progressing, like we've reached, or I feel like, maybe you need to go work with someone else, I will let them know because I cannot be everybody's all.
Mm-hmm.
It's impossible. And anybody that thinks otherwise that they can is full of it.
Absolutely. And I know earlier you said you're like, Summer, are you an empowerment coach? And I'm like, sure, some people call me that too, right? And that's the goal, right? We want to empower people. And for me, I want to empower women in particularly because I believe most women have been conditioned to be sick, stuck, and hurt, and that you can achieve health and happiness. You can achieve what you want in any stage of life. So my goal as a coach is to help my clients become a fearless decision maker and the CEO of their life. And if they want to excel in their career or business, I'm like, well, you need to do that first before you can truly become the CEO of your business or your division, right? We need that foundation. So yeah, life is all about evolving and learning. And I often feel the person with the most experience wins. So I'm very vulnerable about all the adversity I have faced in my life from, growing up, experiencing some trauma, some physical, verbal, emotional trauma, from, being a pro athlete and having to be at that high level to becoming a mom without a mom. Like, I had no idea that my life was going to hit rock bottom in the way that it did. And like that journey and discovery and going out there and seeing all the gaps for women, right? And so I never got a piece of paper for any of that experience and learning. And then fast forward again, like just more things as a business owner. And then like I had to have an emergent hysterectomy, including my ovaries, tubes, everything, so I'm like, man, all this pain and adversity, I feel I was put in that position to be a voice for other women who are suffering in silence. And I'm going to use that because your pain can either be your prison or your platform, right? And so that's what we can choose to do with it to move forward and make an impact for others.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And one thing that I admired about you when we initially had our talk is that you said that you sold a business that you had for 20 years. And you mentioned earlier about having that loyalty, whether it's to a person or to something. Some people will not let go of relationships, friendships, jobs, careers because it's been 20 years, right? But when something isn't for you anymore, you have to let it go. And the whole mentality of like quitting is for losers. No, quitting is for winners. If you know when to quit, you need to know when to quit and know exactly, am I quitting because I'm being lazy and I just don't feel like doing this? Or am I quitting because this is just not in alignment with who I am, what I want? And it's taking away more peace than it's bringing anything into my life. So I really admired that about you. And I just wanted to bring that to, the episode because not a lot of people have done enough work to get there and truly be okay with it. Like, it's been 20 years. I am done. Probably not the easiest decision, but this is what I know I need to do to step fully into my power.
Yes. So many things with that, right? And so many of my clients are women that come to me that feel uneasy about their career, right? They're not sure, kind of same thing. Well, I've been doing it for so long. And sometimes it feels like a security, right? And what I found was professionally, it was limiting the use of my talents. Like I had felt I had outgrown that business. And so I felt that it was time to pass the torch to someone else who wanted to bring the energy and truly immerse themselves in that fitness community that I felt, like you said, was no longer in alignment with who I was personally and even professionally.
Hey, it's me, Romy. I want to share a moment with you. We often talk about healing, growth, and doing the work on this podcast. But where do you start? When you're feeling overwhelmed by life's challenges, trapped in the past, worried about the future, or like you're constantly battling your own thoughts and emotions. Living in a reactive state versus response, passing up opportunities because of lack of confidence and fear, not knowing how to set boundaries with others, but most importantly with yourself. That's why I created my Healing the Root Cause program. It's for those out there feeling overwhelmed and yearning for change, connection, authenticity. Pretty much, you're tired of your own shit. Together, using my proven root framework, we'll recognize your triggers, overcome the past, operate with confidence, and transform your life. As I say, it's not all love and light, and this healing journey is about confronting the shadows and embracing the mess, but still loving yourself through it all. I'll be right there with you, guiding you on this journey, every raw moment, every breakthrough, every step of the way. So if you're feeling that tug and want to apply to work with me, fill out the application in the show notes and we'll see if we're a good fit for each other and take it from there. Either way, I'm rooting for you.
And so, yeah, it's like I built it. And even my daughter actually had a really hard time with it. She's like, Mom, you built this, you created this, you've done such a great job, and of course, a lot of other people. But that's the thing. We have to not listen to other people's opinions. We have to listen to ourselves. And so absolutely, it took a long time, but I just realized also the season of life I'm in. I've got two girls that are 10 and 12 and play travel softball. Well, because I sold the business, it is allowing me to do some different work. So I just want to give an example. The coaches for softball have kind of been coming to me for some softball it's a mindset with these young girls, because again, there's another gap for our young girls coming up through sports. So I developed a softball mindset workbook for them and
Yeah.
started seeing that there's a gap, right, for these girls. And so it's like my clients that are women, some of them now we're having conversations because they're either entrepreneurs or high level C-suite executives that played some sort of sport typically growing up. And they're also recognizing that sometimes a coach had a negative impact on them growing up and they held that right throughout life. And so overcoming that. So anyway, I kind of look at, if I wouldn't have sold my business, I had to close that chapter in order, like you said, to step into my power, unleash my full potential, go into my next season of purpose. And so for anyone listening who's questioning, am I too old, or I've been doing this for so long, or you're the best at, I actually closed down a certain type of fitness division in my business because I had trained a 3-time Olympian in the world of fitness. And I just, after having my kids, recognized that wasn't alignment. So I shut down a 6-figure business even. And people are like, but you're the best at it. And I was like, but that is not who I want to serve anymore. That's not, I'm like, I want to help women become their own personal champions, not try to win a trophy on stage anymore. It's hard, I think, for some of us, or we've been conditioned that, well, you went to college or you've always done this. And like, this is what your path is going to look like. No, ladies, step outside, listen to yourself and get a coach or mentor who can help you see your possibilities, right? And help you evolve to achieve your personal best.
Yeah. I love how you said that just because you're the best doesn't mean that you just have to stick to that. Because I had a boss once that when I was finally going to go off on my own, I used to work for the state. So leaving a state job with the benefits and the retirement, all of that seemed crazy, especially for my mom that had been there. And she has that old school mentality of like, this is the way things are done, right? You're supposed to stay at a place for a very long time, get the retirement, da da da. And my boss told me, like, I imagined you doing what I did, like you would be amazing. And I told her, I was like, I would be amazing at anything that that I do. And she looks at me, she goes, you're right. Because I wore so many hats there too. And I went to do so many different roles. But just because you're great at something doesn't mean that that's what you have to commit to. You could be great at something and just let it have been a chapter in your life, something that you did. It's like these athletes, they don't play until their 60s, not even into their 50s or 40s, right? It's just a phase in their life where they were just so great at something and that's it. It's over.
Absolutely. So many of us, like you said, we feel obligated to a career. We feel obligated to a relationship. Like we have to learn when it's no longer serving us, right? And that, are we limiting our growth by staying where we are? And so, yeah, it's not quitting, because you're right. I used to think the same thing, and I'm sure, and it doesn't matter, other people think the same thing, that selling a business is a negative, right? People who aren't in the business world don't understand. And it's like, no, this was a positive, because this is something that a lot of people never get to, right? To be able to build something they can sell. But that's part of the game, is you need to make your impact here, and then it's time to move on and make an impact somewhere else. And so the same with my clients. For example, I have one that she was very into like software behind the scenes, right? Like kind of, introvert at home. And she had some limiting beliefs. Well, she stepped into a completely new career role that requires her to interact with people more. She's actually like speaking 1 and 2 times a month all the time. She's become like an expert on the topic. And it's like, she's like, but I don't have a degree in that specific area. And I'm like, explaining to women, you don't always need to have a specific degree or specific certification. You have so many experiences that bring something different to the table that you now can utilize in a different fashion. So I see that a lot, because I do have a lot of clients that are over 50 that sometimes think that they can't go into a new area, even though they might have developed this new passion or love, or even take their experience of growth in a completely different area of professionalism.
Yeah. Yeah, you're never too old to start anything ever.
No, your dreams don't have an expiration date. Well, until
Yeah.
you expire, but
Yeah. Colonial Sanders didn't open up KFC till he was 70.
right.
I never think I'm too old for my dreams, whatever they are, whether they change, whether it's something that I feel I really want to do. I don't feel that there's a limit. You're only limiting yourself.
Absolutely.
You're only limiting yourself. So what does the CEO of your life looks like?
CEO, okay. So through the process, I take women is to gain clarity, strengthen their confidence, discover their purpose so that they can unleash their full potential, step into their power. Because a lot of women come to me feeling stuck, right? So they need that clarity. They might have a lot of imposter syndrome. A lot of women don't necessarily know what that is till we start working together, but they're kind of holding back. They're kind of shrinking themselves. So we really work on the confidence. That's one of the biggest things, to be able to use their voice appropriately and feel comfortable using their voice, not feeling guilty using their voice. And then discovering their purpose, like professionally and personally, like that they're living life and doing what they want to do and not carrying out their life for someone else. And again, it all goes back to being a fearless then decision maker. So there's a lot of things I take women through on how to decide, and like that's one of our core concepts in the group is deciding, and then also like creating different aspects of our life. One of the favorite things that my women go through are my happiness audits, and we look at that in our professional life and our personal life. You know, discovering our zones of genius is another thing that we do. And that way we can, you know, create routines, create boundaries, create what we want our life to look like. Then our third core concept is reframing, because sometimes, as we've talked about, we have trauma, we have past narratives that kind of stop us in our tracks. So we need to be able to reframe and move forward. And then our fourth core concept then is to commit, that we're going to commit to this lifestyle or commit to this life, because some of us have fantasies or dream, you know, wishes. And it's like, well, let's come up with a plan if this is what you want for your life. So, so again, to become that fearless decision maker, CEO of your life, that you are in the driver's seat, you feel comfortable, confident, stepping into your power, and, you know, unapologetically being you and living your life for you personally and professionally.
And then and only then can you move on to the business aspect of it.
Absolutely, because I'm sure you've seen too. I've seen some women, and again, this even goes to the health and fitness, like wanting to change. Like I saw in health and fitness and in business or entrepreneurship, it's like, wait a minute, if you don't have these things, you know, done first, you're trying to kind of fix or solve a problem, and it's like building a house with no basement or no foundation, right? So we need to do these things first, then you're going to be successful with your health and your fitness, you know, more confident in your skin, and of course in business and entrepreneurship. Because I think there's a lot of women out there that, again, a lot of them come to me too for questioning their career. But before we even examine if they're in the right career or where they want to go next, whether it's starting a business, you know, whatever it may be, it's like, well, let's look at all this other stuff first. Because sometimes we're trying to band-aid and fix a problem, we're just going to create a new problem. And I do want to say, when I use the word fix, like none of us need fixed, but a lot of times that's what we're trying to do, is fix something, but we're kind of going about it in the wrong direction or out of order.
Right. You're putting a band-aid on something that needs stitching.
Yeah.
Yeah. So on the business aspect of it, so because I know that people come to you when they need mindset, all of that. But if somebody has been doing the work already and they just need help in the business aspect, do you help those people too? Or is it a whole process from beginning to end where first you help them with, you know, that first core foundational stuff and then you move on to the business?
So typically most of the people that come to me are going to need a little bit of work or a little bit of discovery, right? Self-awareness before we get to the business aspect. But I meet people where they're at. And that's why I have some coaching and mentorship programs, and I always say they're a hybrid. I do have some foundational, things that I want them to take a look at so that we can guide our conversation, make sure we're on the same page. I do offer a group atmosphere for women who want to come together for accountability support, but the magic really happens one-on-one. So yes, I can help meet them where they're at. It's just sometimes it's like sometimes we're trying to do calculus before we've mastered addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division, right? So somebody might be like, oh, I want to put together this big marketing campaign and I want to do this and I want to do that. And we go back and I'm like, well, what systems do you, and they're like systems, or they don't have the groundwork in. And so I have a couple clients right now, one in particular that said that she grew too fast, grew too rapidly, and she's seen how because she didn't lay that foundation, it is now creating problems.
Right.
And that's what I see with a lot of business owners, especially in the online, where sometimes I'm like, hey, I'm glad you've had a lot of success in your first year or two, but to me, that's the honeymoon phase. I want to see how you're doing in 10 years. And that's why I say I've had business physical location for 20 years and online businesses for 12 years. You have to look at setting yourself up strong and strategic for the long run, not just the honeymoon phase. So yeah, I meet them where they're at and, help them deepen their business. I coach as a guest coach in some other masterminds for business owners. And like I said, I have a couple of business owners, even in the fitness industry specifically, that yes, I'm helping them because I've been there, I've done that, right? But I also have some business owners that have multiple, $3 million companies, with multiple locations. Even a lot of times, the things we're trying to work on go back to the leadership, and that typically starts with us. And so if that kind of answers your question, it typically does come back to us.
And just how you mentioned that they haven't set up the business to be such high performing so fast and growing so fast, right? Because they didn't build the foundational. It's the same thing with ourselves as business owner. If we haven't worked on ourselves and become the person that could receive that capacity, that stress, that workload, then the business is going to flop and fail.
Yes, resilience is one of my favorite words right now too, right? And how we are we reacting to things, or are we responding things? Because I remember, way back when I was a business owner faced with certain challenges, how frustrating they might be or how I might have handled them versus now, right? And so that's why it's important to have, someone in your corner that has a good level of experience, because we don't know what we don't know if we haven't experienced them, or to be able to look back and say, this is what I've done differently. And we keep using that word evolve. Yeah, we have to evolve. I can't run my businesses how I would have 10 years or quite frankly, even 2 years ago. And so if we're not willing to constantly be, evolving and improving and looking at things from different, then yeah, we're going to stunt our growth that way too. Or like you said, even things will start to crumble and fall apart.
I love this. I feel so like we're so relatable in so many ways. I think that's why we connected the way that we did. But everything that you're saying is right on par with my beliefs and my core values and all of that, because I've also gone through it. And I've also, being a business owner and a single mom and going through the divorce and going through the whole process. Also, everything you mentioned with your childhood trauma, same. Same. So you said something earlier that I wanted to mention about everything that you've gone through has led you to here. Everything you've gone through has led you to be able to be relatable to the people that are going through it. So you're able to connect with them and help them. Because like you said, when you had these male personal trainers, not that there's not great male personal trainers, because I know a lot of them and they're good for, different coaches for different things. But when you don't feel seen by the person that you're hiring, it almost could stunt your growth a little bit. So I just wanted to bring that up, because I feel like that's very important. We go through these, death and rebirth cycles just to come out stronger, like the phoenix, every single time. But in that, we find our purpose, and I could tell you, if I hadn't gone through a lot of my trauma, I wouldn't be able to help people the way that I am able to, because I truly understand. And it's not because of a certification or a degree or anything. It's because I've been there, I've done the work, and I know exactly how you feel. You're not crazy, you're not insane. We do not need to check you into a facility. I get it. This is what we need to do, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, I echo that right there. And if I wouldn't have lost my mom, for one, my mom's been gone for 18 years, I don't think I would have developed Fearless Academy for Women. You
Mhm.
know, what I went through postpartum just opened my eyes. Like, she was like sending me messages basically, you know, about all the things that she truly felt inside that really never communicated. And so I just, yeah, feel that's my purpose, to help women, to be there for women, and again, be that voice. Because some of us, it's like, my oldest daughter is 12 years old, and when I started researching different things about postpartum depression and anxiety, it's just like there really wasn't much there, right? And there still wasn't. And you know, we had a hard time with me, multifactorial. That would be a whole nother episode. But I actually did end up in the psychiatric unit when my daughter was 5 weeks old, because the OBGYNs, they didn't know what to do. They didn't know how to help me. And I had just got to a place that was so bad that I needed to do that. And I look at myself as being super strong for doing that. And so I've spoke out and said, listen, I don't see that as a failure. And just for anyone else who's gone through something, I'm like, oh, well, can you ever amount to be anything after spending time in the psychiatric unit?
Of course.
Right. And it's like, yeah, I went on and I, you know, coached a 3-time world champion. I've won several best business awards. You know, I actually needed that rock bottom for my growth. And so, ladies, sometimes you have to embrace all the pain you're going through as necessary, that you need it for growth, and not run away from it, but use it as a learning experience to move forward. Now, there's plenty of days that I'm like, do I really need to go through another hardship? Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know, being able to kind of move through this and try, you know, yes, grieve, but also try to move forward at the same time.
And mental health is a really serious thing. And I've also been checked into to a mental health facility in my teens twice. And after that, I've been able to evolve into the person I am today, right? Sometimes it is very necessary and
Absolutely.
needed to get the help that we need, whether it's supervised or outpatient. So don't ever feel like you cannot ask for help in that sense if you ever feel like you definitely need it, because you have two people here that have gone through that, and we're here to tell you that there's a light at the end of the tunnel in that darkness, because it does feel very dark and lonely at times.
Absolutely. And I'm so glad you shared that as well, because obviously we have a lot of teens right now, and especially in this different world that we're navigating, right? And just these different gaps or not understanding. And I remember someone made a comment to me because they had heard someone in our neighborhood, you know, the ambulance came and she had tried to commit suicide. And their response was, well, I don't understand. She's such a pretty girl. What? And I'm just like, first of all, you're saying this to me. And secondly, I'm like, wow, there's so much work that needs to be done, that people just don't understand, you know, that people do have chemical imbalances. People are wired a certain way, or yes, how trauma has affected them. And we're not treating people who are diabetics the same way as we do people, right? The brain's an organ. It
Yeah.
can misfire, right? We don't treat diabetics the same way. So I'm so glad we're having this conversation too, to create more
Awareness.
awareness that, yeah, whatever you're going through, like, you're worth it to go out there and get the help. And as we talked about before, it's also okay to say, this isn't the right fit for me, and I need to find another expert to help me too, because we're all individuals.
Exactly. One person cannot be your all.
Yeah.
One person cannot be your all. But yes, that could have easily been me. She's so pretty. Like, why did she try to off herself? Right? That's
Mhm.
the reason why I ended up in um inpatient twice as a teenager. And it was a result of all of the trauma that I had. And I just reached that breaking point where I don't want to do this anymore. I don't want to do this anymore. So that's a really important conversation, especially now how social media has evolved, and I'm so glad I didn't live through this era as a teenager because I was bullied as a child in
Mhm.
school. I cannot imagine if there was this platform
Mhm.
the platforms that we have now, how much more bullying I could have had. It could have been worse.
Right.
So I try to teach my kids. I mean, my son is 13, and I try to teach him as much as I can and have these hard conversations with him, and just so he takes care of his own mental health and he moves his body and he knows he could always come and talk to me because that's a very important thing too that I
Yes.
didn't feel like I had anybody to talk to. I couldn't trust anybody really, and as parents, we want to do better,
Mhm.
right? And one thing that I felt was very much needed in my childhood was having that safe person to talk to. So that's something that I do as a mom with my kids. Like you could literally tell me anything and nothing's gonna happen. We'll figure it out.
Yes, that was so powerful what you shared, and I echo that as well too. Just, we have to have communication with our kids. We have to allow them to feel safe, right? To make mistakes, to express to us. And I try really hard. My daughter's in 6th grade, and let me tell you, like, whew, this year has been quite the adjustment. And I'm right there with you. I was bullied growing up too, like relentlessly. And it's one reason I got into the fitness industry because part of it was about what I looked like, that, oh, your legs are too skinny. I can't believe you would wear those shorts or that skirt, just over and over, over and over these comments. And so that's why it's also important to realize that some people want to be like, oh, we were kids and people said that. And it's like, no, women are, because you heard it so many times. And this is why, a lot of us are still navigating as adults because we believe these things that were told to us over and over and over. So yeah, our kids that are seeing things on social media and half of it not be, true. And then it's like, oh, well, you're not on social media and then you're being left out. So yeah, like navigating all this is very challenging. And, we're all doing the best that we can, right? Like every day really is uncharted territory. And is there really, a specific black and white, handbook to do that? And it's like, no, that's not life. So we have to
There's
build the
not.
skills. Yeah.
Even
And
as
so it's
moms,
parents.
it's like
Yeah.
now I have to navigate my child having social media and making sure that I have the correct parental controls and stuff on the phones to make sure that they're not watching things they're not supposed to, and me being able to check to see what websites they've gone to and all. It's a lot of work, but this is the world that we live in. Like we've evolved so much because of technology, and this is nothing compared to what it's going to look like in 5 years.
Absolutely. And so this is why it's important for us as parents, right, to heal and build the skills ourselves in order to help our children. And so that's why sometimes I have to have conversations with my kids if things are being said to them that I'm like, well, whether it's adult or child, that sometimes adults make bad decisions too, right? Or maybe so and so's, parent is, teaching something to them and they don't know any better, so trying to navigate those things. So that's what we look at, right? We've got a lot of emotionally immature, hurt adults trying to parent now kids, right? And so it's like a lot of us are trying to break that cycle, right? And that's what we're trying to do is empower and do the best we can for our kids to make them responsible, human beings, instill that leadership in them too as young people growing up.
Mhm. Exactly. That's so, so very important. I mean, my goal is just to make sure that I'm raising good humans.
Mhm.
Not perfect because nobody's perfect, and also not trying to live my dreams through them. And I know that my kids are still going to be traumatized in some sense. I just am so grateful they don't have the trauma that I endured when I was a child. Right? They'll have separate other traumas because we all have our traumas, but it's not anything like what I went through.
Mhm.
So trying to raise good humans and making sure that they have good hearts and they do good.
Yes.
Yeah. This has been amazing.
That's why we're all here, right? Is we were put on this earth to do some work, right? To make it a better place, leave it better than we found it. Like that's what I look at our job as humans. That's what we should be doing.
And I feel the more of us do that, right, and teach that, the more we spread that out for more people, because there's some people that are so, not in that frequency and not in that energy space, and they're just in that rat race and completely in that low vibrational place where they're just not thinking of others. It's all about self and how to, people that steal and people that, betray and cheat and do all of these things, and they're not really working on themselves, right? So I feel like as all we could do is work on ourselves,
Mhm.
teach our children, teach people, and then just inspire people by doing.
Yes.
That's
Mhm.
the only way. We can't force anybody to join us on this path. We could just show up and let them see the changes in us. Because a lot of people have worked with me because they've known me for so long. And they're like, I know who you were before. And you're completely different now. What did you do? And because of that, I'm able to help them because they know, and they know it's not a facade. It's very authentic because you cannot make this shit up.
Right.
Can't fake this, right? So it's been great having you on. Is there anything else you want to share before we close out that episode?
No, I just hope that anyone listening found some value or found some peace or perspective. And, feel free to connect with me on any of the social media platforms. If you just look up my name, Summer Montabone, as far as I know, I'm the only one. So,
Okay, awesome. Well, it's been great having you on. And remember, guys, if this episode was helpful, feel free to share it, review, like the podcast. And it's not all love and light.